Hey everybody, sorry, I got distracted at the very last second because so anyway, well, first of all, welcome to Dylan Talks Tone and the live Q&A that we do every Thursday night. You will see that there is no Leslie tonight. She's not feeling well. So she's actually asleep. She's in bed. Except that I just ran in there to tell her that Alex Murdaugh apparently was convicted of murder, which is a huge deal. It's not a huge deal probably to you, but that whole thing is local to us. In fact, last weekend we were driving. I don't want to say driving right by their house, but we were very close. And so we have been following it closely, and that is bonkers. So I will be catching up on that afterwards this evening. Anyway, so I hope everybody's doing good tonight. Welcome to the Dylan Talks Tone Q&A. The way this works is we have a Patreon and YouTube membership. The join button down there, right down here, I think. And we also have the Patreon where people will submit questions on a post that I make every Thursday morning. So we're going to discuss some of those things. You saw the thumbnail. The thumbnail actually comes from one of those questions, so we're going to dive into that. I want to get your thoughts on it. Before we do that, I would really like to just share a couple of housekeeping things. One is there's a bunch of links in the description. If you use those links, it helps out the channel. So down there we've got StewMac, we've got Sweetwater, we've got Runway Audio, of course Dylan Talks Tone if you want to buy pickups. For some reason, I talk about pickups and I say you can go to dylantalkstone.com in videos, but a bunch of people always get in the comments and are like, hey, where do I buy your pickups? And I think I say it all the time, but maybe I don't say it enough. dylantalkstone.com. Anyway, so we do make pickups and we ship a lot of pickups. We shipped a bunch yesterday and shipping a bunch more tomorrow. So yeah, very cool stuff. So yeah, those things are going. You can also convicted on all 4 counts. Tomorrow morning sentencing at 9:30. You better believe I will be watching. That's very crazy. Okay, so that literally 3 seconds before we went live, I literally saw that on my phone and flipped. It's like we have been following it. It's crazy. Anyway, we talk about guitar stuff until 9 p.m. and then after 9 p.m. we kind of just get off topic. Without Leslie here, I don't know what we're going to do about that tonight. You let me know. We're going to discuss guitar technology a little bit tonight. And I don't mean modeling. We are going to discuss some modeling too. But I want to get into the actual building of guitars and technology therein. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's just do this. Let's get straight into the questions that came in over Patreon and YouTube today. We throw these ones up on the screen. If you want to ask a question, put a bunch of questions in front of it so that I can catch it. Here's the thing. Leslie's not here to do this for me tonight. So I will do my best to catch your question. If I do not catch it, throw a super chat. That actually throws a little green thing up on my screen so I can see it. And I will actually see those. So yeah, sometimes the thing scrolls by so fast it's hard. But I can usually catch the super chats because they're a different color. All right, Donovan, when it comes to modeling amps and pedals, do you have a preference? Do you think that mixing pedals and a modeling amp is a good idea? I've got a Spark 40, a couple of solid-state amps, and bunches of pedals. I've heard that overdrive on the front end of modeling amps can mess with the tone and signal in a negative way. Is there any truth to that? It depends on the modeling device. So I personally think that a positive grid Spark is not meant to have pedals in front of it. That is kind of an all-inclusive, but see, the thing about a positive grid, so I've got both of them here. I've got the 40 and I've got the Mini, and I play the Mini almost every day. Don't take that piece of equipment too seriously. It is a practice amp. It is something that you can build a little rig around and be able to rig around your tone and be able to practice with at home. People say they gig with the 40 watt. I know that people do, but for the most part, that thing is to have an acceptable tone to practice with. That's what it's marketed for. That's what the price point is, that sort of thing. If you put a bunch of pedals in front of it and try to get this big serious rig, it's probably not going to live up to your expectations. You have to, the thing about this modeling stuff too is any guitar, anything, is you have to set your expectations properly. And if it's too high, which I think putting a bunch of amps, pedals in front of a Spark 40 is setting them too high. Just use it internally. Now, a Kemper is a totally different deal because of the way it captures the technology. The other thing that's a totally different deal, we've been talking about it a bunch, is, and I put a link to this in the description, by the way, because spoiler alert, go buy this. It's amazing. This is actually a pedal. This is a modeling device. So there's a bunch of amps modeled in here, but it's meant to be a pedal to go on your board. So if you put this on your board and you have all your overdrives in front of it, and then you have all of your time-based effects behind it, that's why it doesn't have an effects loop, because it doesn't need one. We'll get into that in the actual review video. And that's also why it's not stereo, because it doesn't need to be stereo, because you use other devices to make things stereo. This is not an all-in-one effects unit like a Line 6 Helix. This is an amp modeling player, almost, to give you access to amp models. That's all it really is. But this is meant to have pedals in front of it and be part of a bigger pedal board. That's what the whole device is. It's phenomenal. I've been playing it. Well, let's just say that there has been multiple hours of when I should have been doing work and I was actually playing guitar instead using this. It's really good. That's happened to me a couple of times this week. That's a great question, though, and something really to think about for sure. Let's see. 67 Goat says, is that yellow trucker cap your favorite now? You've been wearing it a lot the last few months. Yeah, I got it at the Gibson garage the last time I was there, and I do like it, mostly because, well, if Leslie was here, she would tell you, I like everything to match, so it matches a bunch of my clothes that I have right now, so that's part of the reason why. Nick, quick and easy question. What headphones does Dylan use with his amp? I use the AKG, and these are by no means the bestest thing in the world. The AKG K371, I think they're about 140 bucks. Or maybe right around $100, something like that. Let's see. Ivan. Is 20% underwound too much? Edit. Hi, Dylan and Leslie. I will tell Leslie you said hi. You know how I feel, Ivan, about underwound and overwound as a term in general. I think that if you wind a pickup to a certain number of winds as you experiment and you decide that you like it, then it's not overwound or underwound. It is not... if I put... let's just say I take 7650 is a very common... a 42 gauge... heavy form var is a very common 7850, 7650, I can't remember. 7850, I think, is a very common like Strat spec, okay? And if I was to say, I wonder what would happen if I put 5,000 winds on that thing, and I go and I do it, and I'm like, wow, this is like 35% underwound, but it actually sounds pretty good, then it's not underwound, it's just good. Wind it to whatever spec, establish that spec as something that you like, and go from there. And just document everything that you do so that you don't lose the things you do like, and you do kind of just, and even the stuff you don't like, document what you don't like about it so you understand as you adjust. The bottom line is I have a notepad full of stuff that I've tried so that I can look at it later. And the more you do that, the more you can more accurately kind of predict what something is going to do ahead of time. great. It's, I say I don't really care about underwound and overwound, but it's a great question in the respect that it's think about it differently instead of the underwound, overwound. Think about it as just something that you try to document it. Hello, Leslie and Dylan. No question, just 2 comments. I'll miss the live again tonight. Sorry, dude. For rehearsal. Oh, if you're playing, then definitely miss. I've been playing my center punches and DAFs the last couple months. Your Pro American 2 post inspired me to pull out my telly and play today. It's been a good day. Hard to beat a good telly. Okay, so, and you're not paying attention if you're asking questions without question marks or a super chat. Just telling you. Because by the time I get to that question, it's going to be gone. I'm not going to be able to find it. So, not to be a jerk or anything, but I did say, put a bunch of question marks in front of it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to find it. And I'm by myself, so I'm not going to be able to see them all. Okay, so that brings up a couple things about that telly. So we did a live unboxing of that telly today. That guitar is really good. And there was a few people in the comments. I feel like sometimes folks are just like waiting at their keyboards to hate stuff. Or expect things to be a certain way. So there was a few people that were like, there's way too much wrong with this guitar. You should just put it back in the box and send it back. I would never blah, 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 blah. Well, the bottom line is, I mentioned a couple of things that I wanted to check that didn't exactly look right in my cursory glances. And I said in that video that I would tell you tonight more about that guitar. So here it is. The fretwork in that guitar is fine. I don't know what I was imagining. The 9s on it were kind of throwing me off how I feel about the guitar because I hate 9s on a telly. I just don't like them. And it was making me play, like pull it out of tune, and it wasn't sounding right, and there was just a couple things that made me feel about this guitar. And it made me feel a little weird, like fret buzzy and stuff, and I got to looking at it, and I'm like, no, actually the fretwork is really good. And I said in the video that I would check that stuff, and I would check back with you. I did not assume that there were issues. The one issue that I had with the guitar is the G string nut slot was a touch tight. Not tight, maybe just had like a little burr on it or something. So when I put new strings on it, just run the string back and forth in the hole. What I'm getting at is, people were telling me to return the guitar because there were so many things wrong with it. In reality, it took me less than 5 minutes to just go, and it be done. It actually took me less time to do that than it would to put it back in the box and print a label for it. So that's kind of, I was thinking about that. That's kind of that might be my new metric. Like, am I going to waste more time doing the work to return the guitar than I am to just kind of go, and it's done? You can do whatever you want, but I think that's going to be my metric. It's going to just be like, okay, if this is a repair, if you go back and look, and this brings up a couple things. If you go back and look at all the guitars that I've bought, because in 2022, we bought a guitar every month. If you look at the guitars that I bought that I had issues with, the only one is the broken brace on the Gibson acoustic. And I don't know whose fault that was. I couldn't say it was Gibson's. I couldn't say it was Sweetwater's. I couldn't say it was FedEx's. It's like the box got squished. But you couldn't see it from the outside, so there was a cracked brace on the inside. So, you can't say, oh, this is a manufacturer. They never should have went out like that, because you don't know when it happened, right? That guitar definitely had a return, because that was a structural issue with the guitar. Have there been other guitars where you just want to go like this and it's fixed? Yeah, maybe. I can't think of anything. If you can remember a guitar that I actually had issues with that I had to fix, get in the comments. Fender Mexican Strats have been an issue. The fretwork has been terrible, but I have not bought one in 8 or 9 months. and I know that they've been making improvements. So, a couple of lessons from this. One is, just because I have a problem with one guitar live doesn't mean that they're all going to be like that. It could be an anomaly. Two, the setup on a guitar, when you get a guitar from the factory, or you get a guitar from Sweetwater, or you get a guitar from whatever, they have a range of specs that the guitar should fall into, but the guitar is not ever set up. The nuts are always too high. The saddles are typically always a little bit too high, but they do that on purpose because they know that you're going to set the guitar up. I like my nuts to be at 15,000s. You're never going to buy a brand new, most of the time, most brands are never going to be 15,000s on the nut. You'll always have to bring them down. But they do that because if somebody wants to play at 20,000s and they put it at 15, they have to replace the nut. They're giving you the flexibility. So that's why I say setups is never an issue that I look at as far as quality control. It's just a range that they go in so that the guitar functions when they send it out, and they expect you to set it up to your playing specs. And people will say, I expect it to be done if it's $2,000 or $1,700 or $500 or whatever limit that you personally put on that guitar. The problem is it's not possible. You can't do that. And I wouldn't want a guitar company to do that to my guitar because I might play different than you are expecting me to play. So just something to think about, the flexibility of that issue. Let's see. Let me just see where we are because I don't remember. Okay. That was the tele question. Rob F. I would like to hear Dylan's thoughts and the DTT communities on binding on guitar bodies and necks as well as fret nibs. Do they serve a function or is it all about looks? Thanks very much. I think binding is just an appearance preference, right? Binding, though, falls, and we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday. Binding falls into a category for me, sort of like stainless frets, where I'm only going to purchase a guitar with binding if I know that it's been done properly by somebody who's capable of doing it properly. Because you can have bad binding, especially on a neck, and you mentioned the fret nibs, they can be bad. And so, like Gibson is 100% known for having nibs. They're usually fine. You might have to clean up one or two a couple of years ago, but I just got this Les Paul and it was fine. So I think that's a thing. I think you have to worry about how good it is. So don't expect to buy a $500 guitar with a bound neck and be like, oh, this thing is perfect and feels great. Like a lot of times it'll be a little lumpy on the edge and you'll feel like little edges and stuff here and there on a cheaper guitar or on a very inexpensive import guitar that many people buy because they're cheap. It kind of comes with the territory. I think a lot of people are like, oh, this guitar is super cheap and it has all these features and it's great for the money. The problem is that your expectation of the execution of each of those features needs to go way down, and will you still be happy with that guitar? So just something to think about when you make those judgment calls. Janet Grace, hi, what pots and pickups do you recommend for the following guitars? Les Paul double humbuckers, 500K pots, and I think those have 33s in them. Strat types, HH, HHS, and SSS. So anything with a humbucker in it, I would put 500s and probably 33s. Single coils, I would put 250s and 22. A TL type humbucker paired with a single, I would do 500K with a 22 or a 33 probably. Jazzmaster and Jaguar type, probably a 22 and 250K pots. A Jazzmaster, people like to put 1 meg pots in them, so maybe you could go a 500 or a 1 meg there. That's what I would do. So if that was too fast, you can rewind that and hear that a bunch of times. All right. Now, this is the question that gets us into our conversation a little bit tonight. And I'm going to go back through this and try to find some of your comments here. But Good morning, devastating, dashing Dylan and Luke. Nah, see, now Leslie didn't get to read all this. Bummer. I'll have to show it to her later. I was wondering if you saw the CS guitar video on the Yamaha Revstar that claims that it's the most scientifically advanced guitar ever. I disagree with that claim, but I see where they're coming from. Do you feel that having vertical carbon rods under the bridge like the Revstar will become the next big trend in guitar manufacturing? This is a great question. Okay. I watched that video, the CS Guitars video. And I think that a lot of it was marketing hype. However, I do believe that you are going to see more technology and thought put into the building of a guitar. If you look specifically at, do I have that picture? I do. Hang on. There it is. Look at that. Look how easy that was. When you look at this picture, here, let's make it a little smaller so we can chat about it. When you look at this picture of the chambering and the technology in this Yamaha Revstar, I think it's fascinating. And I think, first of all, this is a Yamaha. You have to remember that Yamaha has been building pianos and musical instruments and measuring vibrations and stuff for many, 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 many years. They've also been measuring vibrations in motorcycle engines, in pistons, in valve springs, in all kinds of things. You know, when in the 2000 aughts, you could buy a YZ250F that revved to 13,500 RPM. A normal person could buy that bike, and that was like Formula One technology of the time. And a lot of the technology came down to understanding vibration. We were actually working at the time with valve spring technology because valves they start to float at that range, and the valve springs would start to oscillate, and then they would start to resonate. In the real term of what resonance actually means, they would start to resonate, and then you would break a valve spring. So, you know, somebody like Yamaha is really, really the people. It makes sense that they would look at this technology. And they would look at a chamber in a guitar, and they would go, you know, we need to put more thought into that chamber in that guitar. Also, with the machining capabilities of a CNC machine, you cannot do, well, yeah, I suppose you could hand chisel all that. But the manufacturing technology, the actual how we make stuff, has advanced so much that you can pull off stuff that you couldn't pull off before. Material sciences has 100% well, 300 million% evolved since the time of the Telecaster. I think we just got a super sticker. I have to read these because they're super funny. Thanks for the super sticker. Pair character punching in the air with fist and bump written on the knuckles. That's what I see in my little display here. Make sure I haven't missed any super chats either. Sorry. I'll scroll back and check really quick. Nope, I have not. Okay. So between manufacturing processes and material sciences, I think it's 100% evolved big time. Now, let's talk about the reasons why I think some of it's dumb and some of it's not. I think it's, first of all, they had this whole thing about we're controlling resonance in the wood and frequency and all that stuff. Okay, whatever. Probably not. What I think's really happening is wood is changing. Availability of common woods is changing. And the number one thing that guitar players complain about in a guitar when they think it's not good is, it doesn't resonate, bro. That one's totally resonant, bro. That's a feeling. That guitar feels a certain way in your lap. And if the density of the wood is different, if the weight of the wood is different, then that feeling changes. And I really think that because the wood is being sourced from different places, we're using different types of wood, that we almost have to look at and take the time to engineer back in that feeling. So, like, you could take any material, and that's the beauty of the 21st century, is you could take probably any material, and using the science that Yamaha is using, you could engineer back in that feeling of resonance, bro, that everybody wants. That feeling of when you strum it on your lap, it like shakes off your lap, even though that is totally counterintuitive to sustain, and we could get into all of that, and but it doesn't matter. If you like that feeling, you want that feeling in a guitar. I don't disagree with that. Like, even if I did, it doesn't matter. If you want that feeling of like, it shakes and it vibrates in your hands. And I think because of changes in wood and changes in all that stuff, that they have to engineer it back in. So I think somebody like Yamaha going to the lengths to do this, it's good. Blame the British Empire for not staying colonial and allowing us to have access to the best woods. What's really funny about that? I have a friend in the wood business, as you know, and he just got back from a country. I don't want to say the country because I don't want to. He just got back from an island country. And they were under a dictatorship for the last, 20 years or so. And they used to be a British colony. And in the 50s, 40s, 30s? 30s to 50s. I want to say it's the late 40s, actually. The early 50s, late 40s. They planted a bunch of mahogany. And then all of a sudden, after World War II, and a bunch of politics happened, blah, 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 nobody could harvest that wood. I talked about this in my wood video a couple of weeks ago. So all that wood just sat there and grew. So now they're working on, because it's not a dictatorship, they're working on a way to get a hold of it. Anyway, I think that the technology in this stuff is very key, and I think we need it. Thank you for the super chat. Hey Dylan, I just unboxed the 61 SG. It's flawless. It makes a little noise when not touching the strings. Grounding probably, or is it normal? Yes, it is normal. If you don't touch the strings of your guitar, it's going to make noise. It's designed that way. It's supposed to do that. And the fact that you got a 61 SG, I'm assuming you're talking about like let me not assume. Is it the Epiphone one? That we're like the kind of like the Explorer that I have coming, or is it a Gibson or a reissue, or what is it? Let us know. That's really cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool. It's not in bigger Indonesia, actually. Anyway, very interesting stuff. I like this idea. So, technology in the construction of guitars, carbon fiber pieces, very fancy routes and chambering on the inside, non-traditional constructions, non-traditional woods. I think we're going to see more and more of this, and I'm hopeful that we see more of it. I actually hope that, in 30 years we're going to be all playing carbon fiber and 3D printed stuff and stuff that's not even wood. There's no reason, except for nostalgia, or if you like it. Okay, let's say this, because I don't want to attack something that people like, because I know a lot of people really like fancy wood. I don't. I don't not like it. I just don't care about it. So let's say that on the material sciences front, there is no There is nothing that binds human beings to using only wood for guitars in the 21st century. There are superior materials for guitars. 100%, it is a fact. We use it because we're not there yet as a hobby, like, you know what I mean? Like mentally, and like nostalgia, and you know what I mean? But on the technical side, there is zero reason to be bound to wood. Not one. Not one reason. I must admit, Curtis Chavez says, I must admit, I think guitar tech has been stagnant. Immediately after each breakthrough, one luthier would make a benchmark guitar in each era, and everyone else would just ape it. You know, so here's the problem with it. And I go, you've heard me say this a lot of times. The problem is us. Parker comes out with a guitar that was genuinely cool. And the problem is us. We didn't buy it because we wanted Strats instead. That's the problem. The other thing was really neat about Revstars, in specifically Yamaha guitars, Revstars specifically, is the price point that they're at, the level of technology that they're at, and the fact that they are traditional enough and not weird in the Parker weird sort of way, that if they introduce a lot of this technology, it's in an adoptable product. Like, it's in something that we actually think is cool on a larger basis than something like a Parker or a Steinberger or a, even like an Artisides, or a, well, even a McPherson, like my McPherson Sable, I think people don't. The McPherson Sable is an interesting one. That thing's carbon fiber, right? My McPherson acoustic comes from a brand who makes $10,000 wooden acoustic guitars, and it comes from a brand that specializes in vibration. Matthews Archery, the guy that owns Matthews Archery is Matt McPherson. He is an absolute genius when it comes to vibration. And it's really interesting the reception that guitar gets. As you are probably aware, in the YouTube comments on almost every video that I use that guitar in, there are a litany of commenters who are like, that thing sounds like plastic. Which is whatever, that's, again, I think that's people like expecting to not like something, so therefore they won't. But I will tell you to a man, and I do it on purpose. I have given that guitar, I've handed that guitar to my most traditional guitar friends, my folk player friends, my mandolin player friends, my country, like, bluegrass player friends, and to a person, every one of them has been like, hey, I need my guitar back. And they're like, this thing is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I did not expect it to sound like it sounds. Because they gave it an honest chance. And because they're professionals that understand what's actually important. And they know that just because the guitar is black doesn't mean, and all weavy looking, doesn't mean that it will not sound traditional. It's an interesting concept to think about, that we could all do. Let me go through and see if I can find some of these questions. Would those chambers be a good place to install piezo pickups? Now, it would go. You'd have to put a piezo in the bridge. Keith H. Dillon, it's a Gibson. Sweet, dude. Have you seen a Fender Bass 6? I have. They're really cool. I used to have one. I'm going through and looking for question marks. Or super chats that I may have missed because, you know, I'm doing this by myself. And it's a little more challenging. You hate Yamahas because you almost died on them? I almost died on a Honda, but I'll still ride one. It's probably not the bike's fault. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So I think we've gotten pretty much through these questions. It's funny how most people who want technological advancement in every other facet of life don't want it in guitar. Yeah, that's exactly the problem, isn't it? That's exactly the problem. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. I got a super chat here, but I want to talk about that. From Mr. S. Non-wood materials for guitars, carbon fiber or... Yeah, dude. Exactly. Carbon fiber. There's all kinds of polymers. There's all kinds of everything. You know, yes. And thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that, Mr. S. You know, getting to this thing about technology. When you watch that video, that CS Guitars video, I recommend everybody watch it. It's really interesting. I don't believe some of the marketing speak in there, but on the whole, every industry vibration tests everything. The knowledge in the world, okay, the knowledge existing, the smart people in the lab coats with the pocket protectors are way smarter than you, Mr. Random Guitar Player who watches a YouTube video. And me too, you know what I mean? In the dirt bike industry, when we were in the dirt bike industry, we used to say that, like, I'm just going to leave that to the nerds in the white coats. You know what I mean? Because they're real smart. And they know stuff. And they can see a math equation in midair and know that it's not going to work or that it is going to work and save you a lot of time. And so when you look at... And I bring in aircraft to this, and I bring in Formula One. I'm a huge Formula One fan. First race is this weekend. Starts tomorrow. They put sensors on the end of wings. They put sensors in the centers of panels so that at various RPMs of the engine and at various wind speeds and at various everything, they can measure every little vibration and know that it's going to, this is going to come into some kind of harmonic, that it's going to cause some sort of imbalance and it's going to crack between these revolutions per minute and this revolutions per minute. Like what used to happen when we were designing valve springs. It's like at this temperature, between this revs and this revs, as it passes through here, it's going to pass this state of resonance, and then if it does this and it does this, the valve spring is going to crack. That kind of knowledge and science applied to a guitar is way smarter than any random dude in his garage with a bandsaw. So those people are smart and they know what they're doing, and we do have that level of knowledge and we have that level of material science available on the planet Earth. The reason nobody has taken the time is because the tradition of guitar players is so ingrained that it's a waste of time. It's not scalable. The other thing, too, is that the guitar industry is a lot smaller than we think. You know, it's like in the dirt bike business. I remember being at a thing, and all of the main people from like KTM, Honda, and Yamaha, and a bunch of the aftermarket places like FMF and, all these places were there. And I remember thinking, the entire world, if this building burnt down and everybody died in here, the dirt bike industry would be dead. Every person that runs the thing is in one room. And you think about a NAMM show, all the big players are in one room. Not lately, because half of them aren't going. But it hasn't expanded and been... I don't know. The automotive industry is way bigger. Cell phones are way bigger. Personal computers are way bigger. And even those are just subsidiaries of bigger companies. So the guitar industry is very, very small. And I think if somebody took the time and really did filter down some technology, some Formula One technology to a guitar, that it would actually be better than any wooden thing we've ever had. The trick is that you have to get into this whole marketing cross-promotion thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to build this guitar, like my carbon fiber one. I'm going to build this guitar, and I need to market it to people that are cyclists, people that are Formula One people that understand that science is real and that it is bigger and smarter than a dude in his garage with a bandsaw. It's smarter than Leo Fender. Leo Fender learned, and this is the wrong podcast to be, I'm just going to say it, but I'm just going to say it. Leo Fender wasn't a genius. Leo Fender knew how to take X amount of parts, cross them over between a bunch of different guitars, and manufacture them for a price. And be like, I can use this part on 6 guitars, and I can use that part on 10 guitars, and I can use this part across 5 different models, and that's going to make it to where I can manufacture an entire brand, and I can keep the price here, and it's all modular. He was the Henry Ford he was not the Einstein of guitars, he was the Henry Ford of guitars. He learned the manufacturing thing. So the Telecaster is just a piece of wood. It's not special. None of those guitars at the time are special. Now, they do have significance to music and significance to our memories as human beings, so they're very significant to each of us, right? They're really important to us. But if you really pragmatically look at the technology, it's just a bunch of garbage bolted together. And the guy wasn't really that smart. He was smart when it came to the business side, but he was not necessarily engineering smart. That being said, it was the 40s. So what did he have available to him? That's what he had available to him. And now, Yamaha is putting carbon fiber underneath the bridge and doing this wacky stuff. That's pretty cool. I think it's really neat. Super chat. Dave the Pious. Carbon fiber sounds like plastic in this era's that guitar is made of plywood. Yep, you are exactly right. You never saw a plywood guitar commercially. No, that's really true. That's really true. Thanks for the super chat, Dave. I really appreciate that. That's really true. You're really right. Another one from him. Leo Fender was one of the first to use graphite. Maybe I knew that, but I don't know that I knew that. Dave Harala says, sorry if I mispronounce your name, by the way. I commented in the RevStar video that you can't get energy back in the strings from the body per the second law, and that Colin said this was wrong. Can you explain? Oh, dude, you are my new best comment friend. Because you know what you did? You quoted physics in a guitar conversation. They don't like that. People don't like that. Okay, so this is really interesting. I should say that I'm a post-Einstein person. I think that the theory of relativity is beginning to become a little old, and I think there's going to be some things that are going to come in and improve it. However, the basic idea is that all energy is just there. And it just converts from one thing to the other. And in a guitar, you have two types. Well, let's make it really basic. When I say two types, this is probably not the technical terms, and there's going to be an engineer in the comments later who's going to call me out on this, but for simplicity's sake, you have electrical energy and you have kinetic energy. In an acoustic guitar, you are magnifying kinetic energy. So when you pluck the string on an acoustic guitar, you vibrate the string and it vibrates this much. That hits the soundboard, vibrates the soundboard more, and it multiplies the amount of air that it can move. And so it moves more air than just a singular string by itself, and now you can hear that. The size of that chamber and the shape of that chamber and how much, and all of those things engineered into that, affect how much air moves and how accurate to the original frequency that you just plucked gets to your ear, because you can change the shape of it you can change the shape of the sound wave by doing things like making this shape of the body different and stuff. I.e. a ukulele, so let's just say this, a 25.5-inch scale ukulele body doesn't exist, but you know what I mean. Like my close travel guitar, real scale, really tiny body, sounds different than same scale Gibson acoustic guitar, because you're moving a different amount of air. Okay, you're moving air, kinetic energy. So we take an electric guitar and we convert kinetic energy to electrical impulses. However, that doesn't mean that there is zero kinetic energy. When we pluck the string of the guitar, it still moves the body. But when those vibrations escape into the body, they do not come back. Second order. They do not come back. They do not. So the idea is, this is the idea of sustain, for example. When we pluck the string, it's a transverse wave that kind of goes like this, like the old breakdancing move that I did poorly right there. And it goes back and forth between the nut and the saddle, with a little bit of energy escaping over the top of the nut and the saddle every time and being lost into the body. The more energy you can keep between the nut and the saddle, the longer that string is going to ring, because that energy is going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the less gets lost over the top out into the body, the longer that's going to happen, the more sustain you're going to have. So the break angle and the break angle of the saddle, the break angle of the nut, the durometer of the nut, which is the hardness, all of that stuff really matters to make sure that that happens. The body then, totally resonance, bro, vibrates sympathetically to that string and steals energy from that string. The more the guitar shakes, the less sustain there is. So for those folks that walk down a guitar shop and go, whoa, I strummed it and it was totally acoustically resonant, bro, and so it must have so much sustain. Wrong. It's the opposite. That is physics. So you are right. However, there's other things that you can do in a guitar to mitigate that. What the RevStar is attempting to do is to keep as much vibrational energy between the nut and the saddle. That's what I think all the carbon fiber stuff is. And then the strategic resonant pockets in the body, those machined hollow places, are to be able to give you a feeling of resonance in the body, but still maintain the energy between the nut and the saddle. So overall, they're like making tone wood matter. if that makes sense. They're like forcing it to matter, but they're using technology to do it. If you just left it up to wood itself, it wouldn't really matter in the same way. So this is a really interesting, I'm glad you brought the question up, because I think diving into that and just being super nerdy about that's really cool. I think it's really cool. I really, really, really like it. I like the idea. Ooh, Robert Wilkinson. I like this. We're getting super nerdy here, but Newtonian mechanics works fine as long as you are dealing with relatively massive objects moving at relatively slow velocities. Exactly. So what happens is you lose energy out into the guitar and it never comes back. That's kind of what he's saying there. Newtonian mechanics works fine because it's inertia. If you steal inertia, the thing dies. A vibrating guitar body steals inertia. And I think where people get this mixed up is an acoustic instrument is not doing the same thing that an electric guitar is doing. You're converting energy with an electric guitar, you're amplifying energy with an acoustic. Really cool. Within its own device, I mean. Yeah. And I know I brought up Einstein, and you're talking about Newton's laws of motion. I really went super deep, and I know might be an after 9 o'clock conversation, but it pertains to this. I really went super deep on Einstein and the theory of relativity. Do you remember that? If you're a nerd, no doubt you are because you're talking about this, but you remember in Einstein's drawings, there was a drawing of a pendulum, and it had the pivot of it magnified, and it was talking about all of the energy being lost. So if you started that pendulum going, what were all the things that caused that pendulum to stop? And it was because all of that energy that you created in that pendulum, you created. But some of it got converted from this energy to friction, heat in the pendulum pivot, gravity. There's a whole bunch of things. So that really changed my whole way of how I looked at. This goes back to dirt bike stuff. We were setting a world record. And you would say, well, we're going to go X amount of miles an hour. We'll have this goal. Well, we're just going to put more power into it. Are we going to put more power into it, or are we going to lose less energy? Where are we losing instead of trying to just gain? And that's the way I look at a guitar too. So if you're trying to go 114 miles an hour on a dirt bike, okay, I'm losing energy here, here, and here, and here, and I've got friction in the chain, and I've got centrifugal force in the tire. Let's get a lighter tire. Where are we losing energy? All those things to go faster. So you lose less energy, you go faster because your net is a gain. Same thing in a guitar. That's the way I look at a guitar. When I strum the chords, if it stops, do I say, okay, what's the problem? What's killing the sound? Where am I losing? Well, the nut is making a little noise. Okay, that means I'm losing some energy in that individual string. Fix the nut. What does the break angle look like? Am I getting any sympathetic vibrations somewhere where I don't want them? When you pick up a Paul Reed Smith guitar and you strum it and you go, dang, this thing is perfect. It's because they've given attention to each one of those little things so that all the energy stays where it's supposed to be. And you don't have, like that telly that I pulled out of the box today, energy being lost somewhere, and it gives you that feeling. It's the whole thing. I get so nerded about that stuff. I love it. I'm just going to say it. The genius of a guitar or almost any musical instrument is in its simplicity. A good sitar buzzes and clangs. A guitar usually shouldn't. Musicians use both. Relativity has nothing to do with the second law of thermodynamics. That is true. So I guess you're right. Yeah. So yes, I was conflating two things together. Thank you. I'm afraid it's your destiny to myth bust. Yeah, I love this stuff, and I'll talk to you about it like this. When Leslie and I were discussing this the other day before we went into that whole thing, in that video, one of the things I told her was, I said, I don't mind doing the more controversial topics live because you and I can have more of a conversation about it in real time. So if somebody disagrees with me or says, hey, you're wrong about second order thermodynamics, oh crap, you're right, I completely was mixing two things up, and I can say that and we can have this conversation and it doesn't sound weird, you know what I mean? Where in comments on a video that's pre-recorded, it doesn't work the same, because people don't, I think people don't understand how much fun I have with this and how much this is just fun to me. This is not, I understand, because I have the same, I think it's hard for me to try to explain this. And we're getting real deep here, but human psychology, I have an ability, and I'm not saying you don't have this, but I know for me personally, this is something that I think about and I concentrate on. I have an ability to have my favorite music from when I was a kid, my favorite guitar influences, the things that are really important to me, the guitar that I'm really sentimental about, the fact that Van Halen was amazing when I was a kid, the fact that Stevie Ray Vaughan is my number one influence of all time, the fact that I would love to own a 57 64 Stratocaster, a 59 Les Paul, a 60 Les Paul, a 57 Les Paul, an old Explorer. I love all those vintage things. I like all that stuff just as much as the next person. The reason it doesn't come across, and I think the reason people misread me on this, is because I have an ability to look at all that stuff and love it and love the nostalgia of it. And when I was a kid, this song was on the radio, and yeah, remember driving down the road and the windows are down and you're listening to REO Speedwagon in 1984, whatever song, it doesn't matter. Whatever radio, doesn't matter. And I love that stuff, and I could be super sentimental about it. But I have an ability to set that stuff aside and look at pragmatically at what the bigger picture of it, and try to present that to you. But I think a lot of guitar players don't do that. They choose, and it's okay. You can make your choice to do that. You can be the guy who only has a mullet still and only listens to Led Zeppelin and Allman Brothers. You can be that guy. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm not that guy. And I choose to look at everything and have a new favorite song, still respecting the old favorite song, still respecting the old guitars, but enjoying the new stuff and learning about it, because I never want to stop learning. It's just really hard to articulate that in a YouTube video and I am a firm believer that more than one thing can be true at the same time, and that it is okay to like more than one thing at the same time. It's okay to like a modeling amp and a tube amp, and they can be right next to each other and everybody's okay. It's okay to like a PRS guitar and a Les Paul and a Strat. You don't have to be just a Tele guy. You know what I mean? Like all those things, I don't even want to call them stupid because I don't want to talk down on anybody. But in my personal world, it is stupid. In my personal world, how I look at life, I want all of it. I don't want to be the guy who only likes one thing. And it's really hard to articulate that, especially when science says this is true. When science says the material sciences of 2021 make wood irrelevant in many ways, and I want to explore things that aren't wood, I want to do it. I think we might have missed a super chat here. Refreshing conversation. After hearing and reading so much tonewood mumbo jumbo, can new materials be made and marketed more green, renewable than wood? Renewable stuff. Thanks for the super chat. The renewable thing is an interesting thing because a material can be renewable in and of itself, but it also can have a higher environmental impact to get it to that point. So I think there's going to be a lot of exploration. I don't think there's any one answer to that yet. I'm into it. I think it's great. Using felled trees, all that kind of stuff. But the problem is that sometimes going out in the woods and getting that stuff costs more environmentally than just cutting a tree down. So I don't know. I think there's more to it. I think that is a nuanced conversation that needs to be looked into further. It's above my pay grade. It's outside of my area of expertise, and I have a friend that he is an expert on that, so I ask him that stuff. But I feel like it's a nuanced conversation that you can't just be angry about in the comments. I think you do need to look at it and try to understand it. Or at least that's what I'm going to do. We got another super chat down here. Jim Cox. I need some technology in my Strat. Could you do a center punch bridge humbucker in F spacing 2.4004? If so, would I just add a note on the online order? Yeah, we can do 52 millimeter. I could do 53, but you would have to wait a little bit. But I could do it. Yeah, so just put a note on the order. Yeah, we for sure could do that. No problem. Reclaimed lumber usually costs a fortune. So, yeah, man, I feel like some of that stuff has a feel-good premium attached to it. And I don't want to talk disparagingly to anybody who really cares about the environment, because I really very much do also. But I think right now, some of that stuff, it's like, bamboo t-shirts are like 30% more expensive. They don't need to be. Bamboo grows plenty fast. But because it's bamboo, your bamboo pillow or your bamboo whatever is super expensive. And I think they put like a feel-good factor, of whatever on those products. And I feel like sometimes reclaimed wood is that too. Electric cars are kind of that way right now. A lot of that stuff that's perceived as being environmentally friendly, they put that feel-good premium on it, which, so I don't know. I hope it gets better. I hope it gets better. Nine o'clock cutoff. Hey, look at that. Somebody knows. So, this is what we do. It's 9 o'clock. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. I might not answer the question. Typically, after 9 o'clock, guitar questions are only super chats. Usually, we just go 100% off topic, and we go until you don't want me to go anymore. So, but we're talking about a lot of environmental issues and other stuff like that might kind of cross over. So, and since Leslie's not here, I might be a little looser on that rule, but the idea is to get a little off topic and just to get to know you guys and just to be friends with y'all, because y'all are my friends. In fact, many of you I've met in person. Yeah, bamboo is really invasive. My brother-in-law was here from California, and he has some in his yard. He grew it as his homeowners association told him he couldn't have a fence, and so he grew a bamboo fence. And but he has to really keep on top of it so that it doesn't take off on him. Greetings, Andre from Brazil. That's pretty cool. People want things to stay as they used to be. Yep. I 100% agree. Some stuff you want to. But I think, that's why you have, that's why you appreciate vintage stuff, right? Like, I would have a room in my house. I don't right now, but I would have a room in my house for, vintage furniture and all that kind of stuff because I think it's really cool. I would have a place in my garage for a vintage car, but I would also have something new and fast. You know, it's funny. Like you'll, I don't know, like a Pontiac GTO in 1967 was like 65, 389 cubic inch. So a 65 GTO, 389 cubic inch tri-power. I don't know, 345 horse, 325 horse, something like that. And that was a fast muscle car. My Audi is 385 horsepower and 385 foot-pounds of torque. All-wheel drive and goes 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. It will do the quarter mile like 2 seconds faster than a 1965 GTO. And it will do it with the heated seats on and some great music going and Alcantara and all of the fancy stuff. But you still want a 65 GTO just because. And that's the way I feel about all this stuff. I think you got to remember the history, but we've moved on. We have moved on. Oh, super chat. Charvel Gaming. Guitar question. Fender Tone Master amp for country between DR Blonde Edition, or the Princeton. So, probably a deluxe reverb. And I would not count out the twin. It depends how clean you want to be. If you want to be really clean, get the twin. If you want that, I don't like the deluxe reverb fartiness when it breaks up. That's just me. I like, and the Princeton's a little bit like that too, but it's different, and I like the Princeton better. But I mean, a deluxe is like, a deluxe and a twin are like the backbone of country music, right? So that's what I would do. I would probably go that direction. Is bamboo bad for guitars? Actually, I had a friend that used to work at Relish. And when he worked at Relish, he gave me some bamboo for some fretboards, and that stuff was really, really good. 73 Opel GT. Ooh, that's a crazy one. Time for dinner. Tell Leslie I hope she feels better soon. I will do. I will do that. Yeah, I would assume that Fat Philosopher is probably the most informed about bamboo because he lives in Japan and has experienced it in probably ways that most of us have not. It's hard to beat the big block RPM adrenaline rush. Yeah, I mean, there's something, the sound, right? The sound. But even that, the new V8s sound so good. I don't know if you've heard the twin turbo Audi V8 that comes in the like the RSQ5 and stuff like that, or the RS5. Holy smokes, they sound good, and they rev higher and they make more power. But an old V8 sounds good. I was thinking about that the other day. My son has a 1974 Chevy with a 350 stroker motor, so it's probably like a 373. And when he drives by, you can hear it. I mean, it's this old Chevy small block, right? But it smells a certain way. There's like a smell, there's a sound, there's a vibration. Like, you just know it's an old Chevy small block. It's kind of funny. It is kind of funny, but it's not better. A stock 350 was 230 horsepower. which you can get out of a stock Honda Accord that gets 47 miles to the gallon now. Kind of funny. So y'all are we're talking about carbon fiber. We have a video about how my Sable is made. I went up there and toured that plant. But the acceleration of a top level sports EV, yeah, they're cool until 65 miles an hour and then they fall off. That's the problem with them. I need an R32 MK4 4Motion and a VR6. MK4, huh? That's interesting. Yeah, so I've never had an R32. I've wanted one. I've never had one. I'm putting a naturally aspirated LS in my 70 Nova. Cool. LSs are like they're like a dime a dozen. You can get them babies anywhere, and they're really, really, really good. Good platforms, aren't they? Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. So what else is going on with y'all? I've got some stuff going this week. Can't tell you about it until after it gets done, though. It's not guitar related. But I still don't want to talk about it until I know a little bit more of what's going on. I learned a lot from you. Thank you for the time and wisdom you give us on your channel. I don't know about wisdom. Thank you, though, for that. It is a lot of time. I guess I missed the talk about the telly. You did. You can rewind it and watch it. Bottom line is it's a great guitar. People complained about it in the comments and they were wrong. That's the short version. Thoughts on the Rev G 2020 by 4? I don't know. I don't know Rev stuff. Dylan, are there any watches that you're looking to get? I am not currently shopping for watches. So I did go look at a couple of Hamiltons a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't buy anything. I bought this Apple Watch, the new one, whatever it is, the Ultra thing, and I bought a bunch of bands to go with it. And I've been using it, and I really like it. I don't know, I really like it. The battery lasts me almost 3 days. I've had it for what, 6 months, 7 months now? The battery lasts for like 3 days, and it's great. It's waterproof. This band is not waterproof, but depending on which band I put on it, like I'll wear it in the shower. I won't take it off. It doesn't matter. And it's titanium. It's super tough. I haven't scratched it yet. It's really good. I'm really, really happy with it. So I haven't really been doing any watch shopping. Yeah. No new RC stuff either. Yeah, so I guess I'll just tell you the kind of preliminaries of it. We live in an apartment. After we got rid of our motorhome and stopped touring the country, we went into an apartment. And we've been here, by the time our lease is up, we will be here like a year and 10 months, something like that. And we decided that we did not want to sign another lease. So we are currently working on some options to have a home again, to have like a house, to buy, and yes. So, and I've got a couple things cooking, and so I'll know more Well, I know for sure that there is one house I'm going to buy. Maybe buying two. We'll see. I'm not sure. And I'll know some more details about that this weekend. I'm not really sure. But we just need a house. I can't play amps loud. I can't be loud at all. Like, it just drives me insane. For work. I mean, I can't be dirty for work, so we can't. I'd like to build some guitars again, but we can't do it. I don't have the space and I don't have the facilities, so we're moving that direction. So that means, I'm buckling down a little bit, doing some saving, It's one of the reasons why we sold some guitars, because I'm like, those are guitars that I'm trying to thin out anything that I don't actually need for work. So, like, we sold the G-Hole. I didn't really want to, but I really liked that guitar, but somebody hit me up and was like, hey, do you want to sell it? And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're going to buy it, I'll just sell it to you. So, I did buy a new guitar today, though. It comes in on Tuesday. So, so we're doing some stuff. We're making some moves, and I am very excited about it. And the house that I am buying is off market. So it kind of doesn't matter what the market does. I know what I'm paying for this house, and it's off market. So it's kind of like hey, you want to sell me that house? So I don't want to say everything's kind of fixed. Nothing is ever sure, right? But I feel good about it, and but we want to be responsible and obviously, save and, be smart and not buy a bunch of knives and watches when we should be focusing on more important things. So we are going to buy some guitars here and there. But that's happening. Sorry, not sorry on the G-Hole. Dude, yeah, for sure. The hang up on the G-Hole is, this is stupid. My sister came to visit last week, and I threw a bunch of guitar boxes away that I didn't think I needed, and I threw away the box that I need for the G-Hole, which is frustrating because it doesn't go in a regular box. I have a bunch of boxes, but I don't have the right ones. And I'm hoping that the guitar that comes on Monday will give me the box that I need to send the G-Hole guitar out. So that's the problem. I'm working with a few Bigfoot researchers to develop Sasquatches. That's funny. That's funny. If we, the DTT Collective, could buy your way onto the Hot Ones nuclear chicken wing eating show, would you go? No, unless they used fake chicken, because I do not eat chicken. I don't eat animal products, so therefore that would make that a little bit tough. However, if they used Impossible Nuggets or something, I would do that. For the hot sauce experience, definitely. Definitely. What is the starting price of your guitars you let go? I think the only other guitar that I have for sale right now is the Machine Gun Kelly Pink Telecaster. That guitar, I would let that guitar go for like $700. That guitar is for sale, and then I think that's it. We do have the Black Batfish is here, but that's not mine. And I think that thing's $2,500 because it's rather custom. Any thoughts on Chat GPT? Oh, nobody has asked me about that. You're the first person to ask me about Chat GPT. I do have thoughts about it. So, Chat GPT is interesting because, from what I understand, I can't say I would know tons of stuff about AI. I have done a lot of research about it, trying to understand what it is. But since it's constantly changing, I cannot say that I'm an authority on it. But my understanding is that it is basically a combination of all the things that have ever been on the internet, more or less, up until recently. And so, and that there is some human intervention into the compilation of it. So I think for inspiring some thought processes, to get a thought process off the ground, it's probably really cool. I don't think at this point it is going to take over anybody's jobs, or it's not going to, I don't think any of that. I think you have to have human beings do certain things. But I don't worry about it right now. Now, here's the other thing. It's only been around for a few months, and it's already super gnarly, like way more than it was. So, I don't know. A year from now, are we going to have to be afraid of it? I kind of doubt it. I think if you're good at your job, and you know what you're doing, I think you're not going to be redundant. But if you don't care about your job, and you don't constantly better yourself as a human being, then yeah, I think at some point there will be technology that will do what you do better than you do. Not better than what I do, but I have the opposite problem. I make something that was made in the 40s. And at some point, no one's going to care about it anymore. So I got to think about that. I got to think about what's happening in 5 years. All the pedal guys are getting into plugins and all that kind of stuff because they know. They appreciate progress and that where they are in it. And I think there will always be magnetic pickups in electric guitars, but I think it will become nichier and nichier. Who will be left in the end? The big companies who are providing it for millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people like Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio? Or will it be small cottage industry sized guys like me who are only making 200 pickups a month? Because it will be only a niche product at that time. Who will survive? I don't know the answer to that question. Does it worry me? It doesn't worry me. Do I think about it? Yes. Because of things like ChatGPT. So my thoughts on ChatGPT are not directly about them because I don't really care about it. But on the broader technology spectrum, I do think about it. Do you think AI generating music will eventually endanger the music production industry? No, I don't. Do I think it will endanger commercial music business as a whole? Yes. Do I think it will affect artists? Yes, depending on their level of dedication to their craft. No, on the whole, because humans create. Machines don't. So, yeah. Everything that I've seen so far on any kind of AI thing has been a reimagination or a recreation of something that already exists. Because that's what it's based on. It reinterprets things that are already in existence, or compiles and spits out things that are already in existence, or like recombines things that are already in existence and then gives you an output. It does not create. You could say that it creates if it takes a new combination of things that have never been combined before, and now you have a new thing. But you can quickly tell that that's what it's doing. So then the underlying creativity sort of goes away, if that makes sense. Like, I used it a few times. I was gonna like, I wonder what would happen if I started to try to use it for like writing descriptions for YouTube videos and stuff, or backbones of reviews because we're working on a blog. And I tried it a few times, and then after the third or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh time, you're like, it sort of starts to seem formulaic, and you can kind of see where it's taking this bit of information and this bit of information and this bit of information, and it's all falling in line. And now you read 6 things, and they're no longer creative, and you can kind of see that formulaic aspect to it, which humans will never ever be able to be replaced. I don't think, at least in the foreseeable future. But it can't tell me where to get Kunify magnets. I can, but I'm not going to. Yeah. Well, cool. You guys, it's been super fun. I still have a little bit of drink left, so I thought maybe I would keep going, but it just depends. When you get drunk and crazy late at night, what music on YouTube do you play? I don't get drunk. I've been drunk exactly 2 times in my entire life. It's not something that I do. I don't even like to be tipsy anymore. I went through a period of time after my injury that I had a fairly severe pill and substance problem. And even then, I never got drunk. And as a result of that, I am very kind of sensitive to it. In fact, I'll get to the bottom of this, and I'll be like, I just had enough, and I'll just throw it down the drain. So I don't really get drunk. Despite what people in comments think, that I'm high all the time, or that he must be really high right now because he's saying crazy stuff. No, I just say crazy stuff even though I don't actually get high, or I don't do drugs, or I don't drink too much. Any of those things. But that is how you know you're having fun, because you don't need any of that stuff to be nuts. This guy. That being said, late at night, what on YouTube music do you play? So I typically, so tonight, we get done with this thing, right, tonight, and I'm going to be kind of wound up, and I'm not going to, like, want to go to bed right away. Well, tonight specifically, I'm going to go watch the Alex Murdaugh stuff where they play the jury verdict. That I'm going to watch. And I'm going to be super wound up from that. So to wind down for the evening before I go to sleep, I'll lay in bed and watch, like, car crash videos, race stuff, usually car related. Most of the time it's car related stuff. I said this in a video the other day. I'm not really a guitar nerd. I just play one on TV. I love guitar stuff. I really do. I really enjoy it because I enjoy learning and executing the stuff as I learn it. And I like sharing it with you. But my personal actual interest when it comes to what drives me and what, like, cars and motorcycles, the end, absolutely 100%. The end. No question, no comparison. I think I just broke ChatGPT by asking it where I can buy Kunify magnets. That is hilarious. Is there a specific reason you're a vegetarian? I thought about it after my nutrition class, but I figured semi-vegetarian is close enough. So I stopped eating meat in 2005. And it was on the recommendation of my doctor because I was having some problems with my stomach. And he said, you should try getting off of red meat for like 30 days. Just see what happens. Like, don't go nuts. Just stop eating red meat for 30 days. I didn't like chicken. I read an article in Rolling Stone, this was 2005, about pork processing, and I was done with pork. And so I just quit. I still ate dairy and eggs until I met Leslie. And she was 100% vegan, no animal products whatsoever. And she's like, you are still having some problems, and you should probably stop eating cheese. And I was like, that's the hard one, but okay, let me try it. So now it's been I think it's been 11 years that I've been 100% vegan, no animal products whatsoever. We don't say that we're vegan, though, because people, that's like Tonewood. It's worse than Tonewood. Like, people get really, I don't know. I don't tell people even, because you don't want to be one of those, like, what's that joke about, like, how long does it take to find out if somebody's vegan? Like, no time at all, because they'll tell you right away, or whatever the joke is. I'm not that guy. I just, when we go to a place, now, like, if you say, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? Where do you want to go? I'll be like, how about this place, or this place? I will not tell you that I don't eat meat. I will just say, what about this place, or this place? And they're like, Texas Roadhouse. And I'm like, what about this other place? And they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. And we'll go. And if nobody knows, nobody even notices. And I just order. I don't even say anything about it. I don't even care. If they know, then it gets really weird, because they're like trying to order from me. Like, look what they have on the menu. You can eat this, can't you? Just order what you want to eat, and I'll order what I want to eat. You know, I know people are concerned, but it gets sort of weird. So I don't really talk about it that much. We don't. And I don't care what's in my, I don't want to say I don't care what's in my shampoo or whatever, but you could get so fundamental. It's just like anything else. You get so fundamental about stuff that your life is just so stressed out from all of it, that I don't do that. You know, could get stressed out about where batteries come from. You could get stressed out about what pollutes this and that and the other thing. And you know what I mean? So I did it for a health thing. I just do it for a health thing. And it really, I feel good. So as I'm getting older, some things are changing, and I've thought about changing it up, but I'll never have dairy again, ever. Yeah. Let's see. And don't go by what I say and make any decisions. Do your research yourself for your own health. I will also not make that suggestion. You know, grip wise, the Silver Sky is pretty nice, but the speed of the Fiore is pretty slick. Yeah, the Fiore is so good, you guys. It's really good. As a vegetarian, I have had the same experience. I get treated like I'm differently abled. Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I am differently abled, and nobody knows. And so I have the opposite problem. I guess they call it an invisible disability. It's not invisible. Like, I hurt all the time, like right now, but, you know, I don't tell people. And yeah, it definitely, it definitely is a thing. Um, Dylan talks medicine. Yeah, no, I don't talk medicine. I think that is a very personal choice for everybody, and everybody's body is different, man. Everybody does things different, and everybody. What I will say, the only thing I'll say regarding diet and medicine, and I learned this as a result of having an injury and having to advocate for my own health since then, because this injury that I have in my spine, it's going to affect me for the rest of my life. So I have to be alert to health decisions, diet decisions, all those sorts of things for the rest of my life because of this injury that I sustained. Very bad. I almost died. They gave me a 3% chance to walk. I shouldn't even be walking. So every day it's on my mind. So I had to become very aware of my own health and of my own diet and of my own body, and like, when it feels this way, this is what I should do. Don't take for granted anything. I'm not saying don't believe medical professionals, because they're professionals. They're the people in the white coats like we just talked about earlier. But and don't be one of those conspiracy theorist, question everything kind of people. But definitely know that it's your own body and that you have the right to make sure that you look into your own diet and your own health, and be concerned about it for your own safety and self-being and all that stuff. Just do that. And wherever that takes you, if it takes you, down some Liver King route, or if it takes you down some vegan route, then do it. Don't do whatever you need to do, but just be aware of yourself. Because I don't think a lot of people are. That would be my only advice that I give people. It's just look into stuff, read about stuff, learn about stuff, because it's your health, and take it seriously. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I say about that. Timothy Potter. No computer on the earth can match the human mind and pure creativity. Intelligence is a trait of humans and animals, and there are no true artificial humans or animals. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks, Tim Potter. I appreciate that very much. And thank you for the super chat. So what are your favorite food items? I make a lot of vegan pizza. I actually make a lot of vegan. I eat the same thing you do. I just make it the way I make it. Dude, David, I did not take anything you said negative. I understand where you're coming from, for sure. Don't worry about that at all. Good night, Angel Raven 444. Yeah, I was on the table for 8.5 hours. It was gnarly. I have 2 8-inch rods, 8 5-inch screws, 2 synthetic vertebrae. I broke my shoulder blade, 3 ribs, 4 vertebrae, a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time. It was not cool. It was not cool. You guys, this has been super fun. Thanks for... See, now I'm going to probably go pour the rest of this down the drain because I'm just kind of done. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. And I know that Leslie wasn't here, and it's not ever the same without her. I will make sure that that she knows that y'all missed her. And she will probably be back next week. And we will see you guys Monday. I'm working on a video right now. I think you're going to dig it. So... probably going to be some Tonex stuff. I think I need to split the Tonex thing up into a couple of different things. So, awesome. Thanks for hanging out, and y'all have a good weekend.